Welcome, troopers and grinders, to another edition of Hank's Breakdown. Oh no, boy. Do we have a humdinger of an Apex fight night for you here at the Asylum with Blanchfield versus Barber. A card with only 11 fights, 8 of which haven't been either cancelled or replaced with last-minute switch-ups. Might beat UFC 300, let me tell you, Hank Tank Army. In this case, the inmates running the asylum might just be the matchmakers at UFC headquarters, and it's up to everybody's favorite warden, Hank the Tank, to sift through all this madness and give you his somewhat sane predictions on which animals at the zoo will come out on top. Starting with the battle of the robbed women's strawweights, we have Ryan Dos Santos against Marceline, the Vampire Queen. No, seriously, she even hails from Romania. Vampire. This fight's just a matter of who's going to barely outpoint the other. Both these strawweights going to pretty close decisions in their last couple fights that didn't go their way. Ryan Dos Santos pretty much beating Pooja Tomar, but being robbed because the UFC needs to have at least one Indian fighter on their main roster. And then losing a close decision with Talita Alencar before that. Meanwhile, Alice Ardeline had a great debut against Shauna Bannon and should have won that fight by decision, but then lost pretty decisively against Melissa Martinez, so I think that's going to give Ryan Dos Santos the edge. Plus, she's a little lankier than Alice Ardeline, and her striking is more crisp and accurate, so just by a hair, give me Ryan Dos Santos to win a decision against Alice Ardeline, and maybe eat her fries for good measure. For our next fight, we have Markel Oh God. What's happening? Oh God. Oh! We have Balaji taking on Michael as well. Yes! I called it, guys. Call me Hankstradamus because I foresaw it subconsciously in my dreams, in my plethora. Got into the UFC coming off a decision, which I'm never really that big a fan of, but he did beat Michael as well. He's got some grappling talent. I saw Michael as well in my rear view mirror, and he's here! He's finally here in the UFC! Oh my God, this is the happiest day of my life. Not really, but I am a little happy about this. So we got Balaji taking on Michael as well, and I think Balaji is having a short notice fight here. He's taking on a short notice opponent. This guy, Michael, as well, fought Bogdan Grad on the Contender Series, and he lost by a narrow margin, to be fair, but he still lost. Got outstruck pretty decisively. And Balaji, apart from getting Gilly Goose-ganged by Chris Duncan in a very low fight IQ moment, has been looking pretty good in the UFC as of late. Beaten Aiden Ogai, and I believe it was Timmy Kwamba, right? Yeah, it was Timmy Kwamba. I still think that Balaji has a lot of potential. Michael as well, I don't think is as good a striker as Oki, just because of the reach disadvantage I think he's going to suffer from. And on top of that, if Balaji is able to get the takedowns on Chris Duncan, he can take down Michael as well on short notice. So I think for that reason, he's not going to find a finish, but he is going to outpoint as well on the feet and on the ground for a pretty unanimous decision. And I think he's going to send the Texas kid packing to Fury FC as well. Then we have a big ol' inmate scrap between Gustafsson. No, not Alexander. His second cousin twice removed, Andreas Gustafsson. Duh! And then we have Trevin Giles. Honestly, this fight is not going to be decided by height or reach. Both their arm lengths and their heights are equal. It's going to come down to fight styles, and with Trevin Giles, I just don't think he's very good at anything in particular. I mean, he's on a 3-fight losing streak, so that sort of checks out. And then with Andreas Gustafsson, all he has to work with is a clinch up against the fence and then elbows and knees up the middle. But hey, he makes it work. It's how he got on the Contender Series, beat, I believe, a 9-1 opponent with that method. Just did it over and over and over and over again, spammed it. And I just don't think Giles is tricky enough or clever enough to understand his game and counter it effectively. Like, he always just looks for those big overhand shots, and then when he fails, he just sort of chickens out a little bit and takes it. And I think he's going to take it here against Andreas Gustafsson. I think Gustafsson's going to shoot for clinches right out of the gate. Giles won't be able to counter. Elbow, elbow, knee, knee, and then going into the second round, he's just going to be completely worn out, Trevin Giles. Gustafsson's just going to rinse and repeat, and down goes Trevin Giles. That is my prediction. Even though Trevin Giles is a problem, I feel like Andreas Gustafsson is going to be the bane of his existence. Round 2 knockout. People didn't care who I was until I started using the clinch. After that, we have a fight between two of my favorite lower-tier lightweight fighters. Yes, that's a real category. Between the Monkey King, Jordan Levitt, and the Hurt, Kurt Hollabaugh. He likes to hurt people, that's right. With this fight, I'm torn on who I want to pick here, but I feel like Jordan Levitt has taken on better competition. Lost to Chase Hooper and to Paddy Pimblett by submission, but no shame in that. Both those guys are going to be ranked very soon, I predict. And then with Kurt Hollabaugh, he lost to Trey Ogden decisively, and then even Alexander Hernandez he lost to by decision. Now, I thought that Kurt Hollabaugh did win that fight against Hernandez, but you could argue that Hernandez was just barely able to edge it out. And if he's losing to that level of competition at lightweight, I feel like Jordan Levitt's just going to mess him up. I think his grappling is way superior to Kurt Hollabaugh's. I know that Hollabaugh won against Austin Hubbard, but Alexander Hernandez found a way to beat Austin Hubbard too, okay? So I feel like Levitt can keep him down on the mat when he wants to, out-grapple him, scramble for better positions, beat him up a little. Even on the feet, I feel like this is going to be a very competitive fight. Jordan Levitt, he's got underrated striking. He's been able to knock fools out before, whether that's via slam or 1-2 combination that puts him out. So I just feel like Levitt's better in both areas. So give me him to win a unanimous decision here against Kurt Hollabaugh. He could put the hurt on Kurt and, slam him down on the mat, putting him out cold, and then doing the splits afterwards. But I just think he's going to coast this thing all 15 minutes and win a pretty dominant decision. Boom, no, no, no. We move on to a surprisingly close matchup here between Alan Nascimento and Jafel Filho. Both these guys, I think, are pretty underrated in the flyweight division. Alan Nascimento recently subbed Carlos Hernandez, which actually hasn't aged all that greatly, but then he beat Jake Hadley very decisively when he was still undefeated, and then took Tagir Ulanbekov to the limit, only losing a split decision 3 years ago. It seems like he's taking a lot of time in between fights. And then Jafel Filho recently subbed Ode Osborne. Again, not a great win to put on your resume, but he beat Daniel Perez, subbed him by arm triangle choke before that, which is actually pretty impressive given the run he's been on since, and then got subbed by Muhammad Mukayev in the third round. So these guys are beating some solid talent and then losing to ranked competition, which is why they are at the placement they are at currently. Alan Nascimento, just because he almost beat Tagir Ulanbekov, might have to be my pick, even though I like the competition that Jafel Filho has beaten in his last 2 fights, much like I've liked Alan Nascimento's. I just think Nascimento has the grappling edge. I think he's very resilient. Jafel Filho is going to have, some grappling of his own, and the striking might be pretty even. Both these guys are good, but Alan Nascimento, I just think he has a better potential at beating a really good opponent in Jafel Filho, whereas Filho's last win was Ode Osborne, and he's either almost beating Ronaldo Rodriguez or he's getting absolutely smoked. So really hard to judge how good a win that is. So give me Alan Nascimento to just edge by Filho and win. Fairly unanimous decision. Could be a split, but either way, this is going all 3 rounds. I don't think Nascimento's going to find a sub. I think he is going to find a win, though, by decision. And this pastor is not going to be able to compel the Grim Reaper. Oh! And then we've got Zachary's Pizza taking on old Dusko Todorovic. Oh, man. Look at poor Zachary's, dude. There is nothing behind those eyes, man. I can only imagine what's going on through his head being here at the Asylum for so long. Anyway, Dusko Todorovic is getting dusted by all these young prospects. Mansour Abdul Malik knocks him out in one round. Christian Leroy Duncan, he has a knee injury against, but I guarantee that CLD would have finished him up anyway. And then with Zach Reese, sure, he lost to Bekaev, got absolutely slaughtered by Bekaev, but Bekaev, I think, is going to run through a lot of this middleweight division in the UFC. I'm calling it. And then before that, he was on a 2-fight win streak. Knocked out Julian Marquez, not the best win in the world. Jose Medina, he goes the distance with him and looks pretty amateurish in the process. But he's still on a 2-fight win streak. Todorovic, I just don't think he's built for the UFC at this point in his career, despite being younger than Zach Reese. I just think he's more ring rusty, you know what I mean? And I feel like this fight's going to be competitive for a little while, and then Zach Reese is just going to find the uppercut or the 1-2 around the guard that just puts Dusko out. So give me Zach Reese by first round KO, and Dusko, you've been thunderstruck! Now we've got Ketlen Vieira taking on Justin Bieber. Wow. From music to MMA. What a world. What makes me want to pick Macy Chiasson here over Ketlen Vieira is that I really like her takedown ability and what she's been able to do on top. You know, compared to Kayla Harrison, who is just reeks of desperation with every takedown that she shoots. Chiasson is very smooth with it, no diddy. And then once she has her opponents down on the mat, just elbows, turn you over, rear naked choke. Like, she doesn't play around once the fight hits the mat. She even won a close decision with Norma Dumont, which is aged like a fine wine. And then, I get it, she lost to Aldana, miraculous kick to the liver, puts her out. But if that fight had remained with Chiasson just like ragdolling her on top and just laying on her, drowning her, then I think Macy would have won that fight handily. She could easily be on a 4-fight win streak right now. Ketlen Vieira did very well against Kayla Harrison. She was able to stuff quite a few takedowns, show her levels on the feet. But the thing with Chiasson is just, you don't see her takedowns coming. With Harrison, you know what her game plan is. You know that she just uses her power and her strength and her size advantage to get you down. But with Chiasson, she has that too, but she's very sneaky with how she gets the takedowns. And once she's on top, she's not just going to lay there for the rest of the round and just hope that that wins it. She's going to do damage to you, or she's going to try to finish you. So because of a difference in finishing potential between Harrison and Chiasson, give me Chiasson to win here. Not by finish. I don't think it's going to be by finish, but I think she is going to hurt Vieira pretty badly. Now, Vieira could make this thing competitive, you know, never say never, but I feel like if Harrison can win the fight over 3 rounds, I think Chiasson can do it too, and easier. So I don't think Vieira is going to look very phenomenal against Macy, and if anything, Macy's the contender to look out for. So give me Macy's Thanksgiving Parade by decision. Then we've got the light heavyweight's own glass cannon, Dustin Jacoby, taking on the returning Contender Series fighter, Bruno Lopez. And Bruno Lopez's combination of first and last names, echoing the great Bruno Silvas and Diego Lopez's of the world. They've gotten him this far, as he had a fantastic performance against Mr. Magomed Gaziasulov. But I feel like he's going to get stopped dead in his tracks here by a very underrated light heavyweight gatekeeper in Dustin Jacoby, who destroyed Vitor Petrino in that 3rd round, had a competitive fight, and then laid him out flat with that overhand right hook. And Dominic Reyes, see, this is why he's called the glass cannon. It's because he either puts you out or you put him out. There is no in between. It's been a long time since the Menafields and the Mirzakhanovs of the world. He either beats you or you beat him. Does he knock out Bruno Lopez? I feel like he does, because even though Lopez did very well against Gaziasulov, this guy Saziniani in his 2nd Contender Series appearance was sort of putting it on him in spite of his sloppy-ass striking. And I feel like a fighter who's way more technical and accurate in his stand-up game, like, you know, the former Glory kickboxer Dustin Jacoby, can really put it on Bruno Lopez early. in the first round and just wear him out. I don't think it's going to be a first round hitter-quitter knockout for Dustin Jacoby. I feel like he is going to wear on Bruno Lopez a little bit, and then going into round 2, once Lopez is already sort of stung up and tired, that's when Dustin Jacoby is going to hit him with that big right again and just put him out cold, in my opinion. So give me Dustin Jacoby by round 2 KO. He's going to be dusting another one, boys. Next, there's Ramiz Brahimaj taking on Billy Ray Goff. Brahimaj, of course, destroyed the legendary punk killer Mickey Gall, which means he's totally going to become the welterweight champion and then fight for the middleweight title, become the double champ, and the GOAT in all of MMA, right? Well, I've got bad news for you. He's lost to Themba Garimbo, as well as Court McGee when Court McGee was bad. So even though he found that amazing right hook KO, perfect timing on Mickey Gall, that doesn't mean he's just going to beat an insane striker like Billy Ray Goff, who just takes punishment and keeps coming forward with punches. Went to a very close decision, in my opinion, with Trey Waters' fantastic fight. He was taken down, got right back up, got stumbled, kept on pressuring. Like, nothing could stop Billy Ray Goff in that fight, and I argued that Billy Ray actually won that fight. They gave it to Trey Waters, but in my opinion, Goff is a fantastic prospect, very tough, crafty, for someone his age, only 26 years old. Brahimaj is 32, and Brahimaj's only chance here really is to get Billy Ray Goff down to the ground and sub him, since there's no comparison on the feet. But Billy Ray Goff, he has a tendency of getting taken down and getting stuck there for a little bit, but he always finds his way back up before the round is over. I feel like that's going to happen in round 1. Brahimaj is going to shoot. It'll be successful. Billy Ray Goff will find his way back to the feet by the time the first round ends. And then in the second round, I think Brahimaj is going to gas, knowing he hasn't found the finish yet and that he can't out-grapple Billy Ray Goff. He's going to get worn out, pressured up against the cage, and then I think Billy Ray Goff is just going to find a combination that puts him out cold. Simple as that. I really like Billy Ray Goff. I think he has a lot of potential. I think he beat Trey Waters, so give me him to beat Ramiz Brahimaj by round 2 knockout. Let's fucking go, Billy Ray Cyrus. And here we have an absolute abomination in the world of MMA, Mateusz Spammer Gamrot, taking on Mr. Lowlight, Ludovit Klein. I mean, his nickname, Mr. Highlight, just ages worse and worse by the day. Gets, honestly, fraud-checked by Roosevelt Roberts without even losing. Horrible, horrible performance from Ludovit Klein. He should have taken Roosevelt Roberts out in 1 minute. And then before that, knocks down Moises, doesn't finish him. Gets a front body kick against AJ Cunningham, wins a decision against Bahamondes, and then has a draw with Jai Herbert. Where is the highlight? Is it a body kick, front body kick KO of AJ Cunningham? Is that the highlight, Mr. Highlight? Yeah, change the nickname. Call it Mr. Lowlight, because that's how you perform in your fights. Rotten. Especially against Roosevelt Roberts. And for that reason, I can't, in my right mind, pick him here against Mateusz Gamrot. Like, RDA knocked down Gamrot twice, but I don't even think Ludovit Klein has the knockdown ability to do that to Gamrot. And Dan Hooker's a tough matchup for everybody, especially in Australia. But Ludovit Klein, you'd need power to put away Gamrot. I just don't think he's the kind of dog fighter that Dan Hooker is. I feel like Gamrot is just, if anything, might outstrike Ludovit Klein, since Klein got pretty much outstruck by Roosevelt Roberts, and when he needs to, he's just going to spam the takedowns. He's going to spam the crotch sniff, as the spammer does. And Ludovit Klein, I don't know, man. I just don't see him as the prospect to take out Gamrot. He needs to really have striking credentials that can put Gamrot on his toes and backed up against the cage, and I just don't think he has that ability. I think he has been taken down before in his fights. Roosevelt Roberts got him down, right?
No.
So Gamrot's going to do that easy, man. As much as it pains me, I have to give it to the spammer to win by decision, by just being a wet carpet right on top of Ludovit Klein for 15 minutes. Why is this the co-main event of this Apex Fight Night card? Kill me. And finally, we're here with Aaron Blanchfield taking on Macy Barber. Actually, a pretty solid fight. Would have preferred Rose Namajunas versus Macy Barber. I've heard that was in the works, and then they just canceled. But with Erin Blanchfield, she just has such a basic game at flyweight. She pressures forward. She misses her punches. She takes their opponent down and then just repeat the process. I mean, look at her. She's even pressuring forward on Macy Barber right now. Down, girl. Down, girl. But, no, that blood you see on Macy Barber's face, it wasn't from Erin Blanchfield. She didn't hurt her too bad. I mean, the real reason why she looks that way is, well, let's just say that she lost her barber's license. Anyway, Erin Blanchfield, she's not that great at striking. When she fails at striking, she's usually able to get her opponents down. Honestly, should have just taken her opponents down from the jump. I don't know what her coaches are thinking with her game plans in these fights. Against Manon Fiorot, I think it took her, like 2 or 3 rounds to even try to get a takedown on Manon, and Manon has fantastic takedown defense. Maybe that was her game plan, was to outstrike her. She failed miserably, but then she polished up her wrestling a little bit against Rose Namajunas. Meanwhile, Macy Barber calls herself the future, but everybody forgets about the distant past when she lost badly to the happy warrior Roxanne Modafferi by getting taken down over and over and over again and just buried, drowned, essentially. And she's been on a good win streak ever since. Knocked out Amanda Ribas with that fantastic head kick. What a freaking fight that was. And then goes to a decision with Katlyn Carmenara, who I don't even know is in the UFC anymore. And then has a split decision with Andrea Lee before that. I just feel like Barber's striking is very fun. She pressures forward a lot like Blanchfield's, which made a lot of predictors think this was going to be a close fight. But I feel like this is just going to go how the fight with Rose Namajunas went, where, you know, Macy Barber's technical, she's barely outpointing Blanchfield, and then Blanchfield just finds the takedown. Like, I guarantee Barber's takedown defense is not as good as Rose Namajunas' is. I mean, she lost to the Happy Warrior by getting taken down. I feel like Blanchfield is going to do that even easier on Macy Barber. She's just going to be flat on her back on the mat, as a lot of women's fights go, and she's not going to find a finish. I don't think she's going to be able to submit Macy Barber. She's going to be just a carpet on top, just trying to lay there for the remaining 5 minutes of the round, and I feel like it's just going to be a rinse and repeat cycle, like her description says. I hope that Barber finds a head kick knockout on Blanchfield, because honestly, she used to be a submission machine monster, and now that finishing ability is sort of fallen out of window. So we need some more exciting fighters to be fighting for titles at flyweight, but Blanchfield's game is just tough for non-wrestlers to deal with, or fighters who aren't named Manon Fiorot. So I feel like Barber is going to be in some trouble here. Might be a close shave. Could win it, eke out a decision. But I feel like Blanchfield's wrestling is just very hard to overcome for any women's flyweights, besides Valentina, of course. Dude, Valentina would absolutely destroy Erin Blanchfield. There's no question about it. But in the meantime, they're giving her some opponents she can beat. So give me Blanchfield to win a very boring 25-minute decision over Macy Barber. And that is going to wrap another one of Hank's breakdowns for the UFC. Honestly, couldn't have predicted a worse card if I tried. Honestly, I'm just waiting for next week for UFC 316, which is just a little bit better than this one. Still, I had fun making this one. Honestly, I pay my editor too little. Oh wait, my editor's me, so I pay myself nothing at all. But that's gonna do it, troopers and grinders. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hank's madness as he tries to put all the puzzle pieces together as only he knows how, terribly. So, until we meet again, troopers and grinders, you have escaped the war zone. For now.